Good afternoon, everybody. We can do better than that. Good afternoon, everybody. What I'm talking about, it's a great day to be an OR nurse, right? It's a great day to be an OR leader and an educator. Wasn't that last presentation just powerful? How amazing that was. And I sadly am not an OR nurse by background. I'm a critical care nurse by background. And I would love to see something like this from a historical perspective relative to critical care nursing, because I bet it was just as rough in the early days in the 1900s in critical care as it was in the operating room. But Brenda, you did an amazing job. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I told her she needed to take this on the national stage for sure at AORN. So I am very, very passionate about people, because I believe as a leader, you can't do anything in an organization without people. You have to have people. And to have people fully engaged and people who are excited about what they do each and every day, you have to take care of people. And I believe there are two ways, and this is just my personal bias, that you do that. One of which is by being an authentic leader to those that you get to lead. And the other is recognizing them in a meaningful way that matters to them. And so I'm going to do my best over the next few minutes. I recognize it is Saturday afternoon, and I'm the last thing standing between you and an exit out of this place. So I think I'm going to schedule till 4 o'clock, but I bet I can get done with this a little bit faster than that and maybe get you out of here a little bit sooner. So let's get started. I promise I'm not going to, does this clicker work?
I didn't have anything that worked.
Yes, it does. All right. I promise I'm not going to lecture for days on authentic leadership theory, but I'm just going to hit it so you have a good understanding of it. And that's the first objective up here. Then I want us to have a good understanding of some research that's been done around meaningful recognition. And then I want to give you some of Stuart's examples of how to really authentically recognize those that you get to lead in a meaningful way. Now, let me just get by show of hands. How many of you have people under you today, under a span of control, that you get the privilege of leading every day? How many of you are leaders in this room? Absolutely. Awesome. So I'm talking to you. Now, when I get into the personal things, I want to just put this caveat out there right now, is everything I tell you today is from a place of humility. I'm not up here to say, put a flower on me, put a rose on me, look what he did, look what he didn't do, all that good stuff. I just tell you, these are things that I have personally done as a nurse executive for the last 24 years that work and that really make people really feel valued. Now, before I do that, let's get into just one slide of how our profession is looking right now, and this is all nursing. I pulled some of this stuff out for just perioperative services, and it's right in line with a lot of this stuff here. But 400,000 healthcare workers have left healthcare since the start of the pandemic. The Bureau of Health Workforce is expected to add the United States to add 700, almost 800,000 new registered nurses positions by 2030. I don't know really truly how we're going to do that when we're turning away 75, 80,000 out of schools, qualified applicants every year. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Year over year, travel usage we know has grown from about 35% in 2020 to 40% in 21. That has raised the cost from about 2.5 to 3 times the cost of a registered nurse for a traveler. That's expensive on healthcare organizations, as you well know. Bureau of Labor Statistics also has seen an increase in healthcare job openings from December 20 to 21 by 672,000 positions. And then this is just an average across the country right now. The average sign-on bonus for a nurse is about $9,000. And we know in the Atlanta metro market, sometimes I've seen it as high as $25,000 through the pandemic and beyond. So what is authentic leadership? What is authentic leadership? And so when one of my favorite questions to ask a leader whenever I'm interviewing a leader is, what leadership theory do you ascribe to? And tell me why. What makes you that type of leader? We know there's all different types of leadership theory out there. There's transformational, there's transactional, there's situational, there's participative. We learned this morning about empathetic leadership theory from Holly, all these different types. But if you were to say, Stuart, which one do you ascribe to? I would tell you, I probably border between a servant leader because I love serving those beneath me or those that I get the honor and privilege of leading. But I would tell you that it's all about authentic leadership for me because it is rooted and grounded in relationships with people. You can't drive processes without people. You can't drive policy without people. So what we do with those we lead truly matters. And that's what authentic leadership theory is really all about. It's being down to earth. It's being genuine when you talk to your people. It's leading by example. It's just being an all-around good person, bringing your whole self to work each and every time you come and fully participating openly and honestly with those you get to lead. So there's 4 domains of authentic leadership theory, and I believe that authentic leadership theory has the power to really drive outcomes and organizational performance as evidenced by these 4 domains. Let's start with the first one real quick, and I'm getting off of leadership theory right after this. We're going to get into meaningful recognition. But self-awareness. I have said forever, if there's one thing that people in our society really need a good dose of, a good baptism of, it's self-awareness. Just be self-aware of who you are and what you do. Self-awareness from an AL standpoint is really looking at those internal values that must reflect your behavior. What is it innately within you that drives your behavior? And this enables us to have self-regulation and resilience towards external processes and pressures and influence. And then you move on along the paradigm here into relational transparency. And being relationally transparent is saying, you know what, hey, I made a mistake, and I can admit I made a mistake. It's surrounding yourself with people that you know you can just be open and honest with and transparent with. It helps you build relationships when you have that high integrity, that high trust, that high honesty characteristic. And you're able to share your strengths and weaknesses with those you lead, being vulnerable along the way without any fear of judgment. Then there's balanced processing. That's the third domain of authentic leadership. And that's really where you're able to openly share your feelings and your motives with your team, where you can be open about your morals and your values and why you lead a certain way. And the other piece that's really key here and about from the balanced processing standpoint is communication. This is where that whole communication domain comes into, and we'll talk about communication more along the way. And then you have a strong moral code. That's the fourth and final example here, a domain here. And that's where you're able to regulate your personal behavior in accordance with your moral values, and which we know will result in high ethical decisions and high ethical behavior. So in summation, authentic leadership is really a leadership theory that focuses on the ethical dimensions of relationships between the followers and the leader, So there's also these qualities of what it really means to be an authentic leader here. And I want to share some best practices with you, or some leadership practices with you maybe, that you can do if you really want to hone who you are as an authentic leader. First, you got to be comfortable in your own skin. Don't fake realness. If you think for a minute people don't know when you're fake and when you're real, they know. They know, all right? Secondly, don't take yourself too seriously. That helps us be more approachable. Like you can be so buttoned up sometimes and just walk the way you should walk all the time, and you're so prim and proper and so professional that people are like, bougie, not going there. Ain't happening, right? Share the full picture of who you are. In other words, be vulnerable with those you lead. Be vulnerable. Don't believe your own hype. Even when you're killing it, don't believe your own hype, right? That helps you be humble. That brings back that spirit of humility. I interviewed a candidate yesterday for a position at our organization. And I said, tell me some processes, and things that you've done to really eradicate or mitigate, hospital-acquired infections in the units you lead. And she says, what do you mean? And I said, well, I'm talking about clotting and collapsing. And she's like, literally again, what do you mean? So I said, well, let me spell it out. Catheter associated urinary tract infection. And then she said, what's that? And it hit me, she doesn't have any of those. She has led her team. And so then after she said, what's that? I fully got the full picture. She says, let me be very humble. Let me be very grateful that we've been able to fully eradicate caudate and collapsy on the 2 units that I've had the privilege of leading for the last 14 years. And for the last 11, we've not had one HAI on my unit. I'm like, wow. Welcome to Northeast Georgia, girl. You get hired today. But what I appreciated about her was that she was authentic enough to say, what's that? Right? It was kind of like coming out. Okay, well, maybe you don't know what an HII is. Let me spell it out. But then I got to see that vulnerability side and that true humility side of this particular candidate. Don't surround yourself with yes people. Sometimes we as leaders need it straight. We just need it straight. Now, Lou, I'm gonna pick on you. I never met Lou until this morning. But I was at dinner last night and I heard from a couple of people, they said, oh, we used to report to Lou. And Lou would say, can you come to my office? And she would shut the door and sometimes she'd just give it to you straight. Or sometimes she would ask for it straight. Tell me what's really going on out there. That's authentic leadership. You don't want to just say, oh, yes, it's all peaches and rainbows and Skittles. Baloney. We know better. And you know what more? Your staff know better. Those you lead know better, right? Ensure you live, you encourage, you endorse, you welcome diversity. There's power in diversity from a thoughts perspective and diverse opinions. That's how we get better. That's how we lead differently from an authentic leadership standpoint. Be courageously truthful to your team. I told you earlier, they know when you're lying. They know when you're feeding a line of bull. That they know. And so when you give it to them truthful, that helps you earn trust, right? We just went through a whole exercise at our hospital recently about the 5 dysfunctions of a team and that Johari window and how you have blind spots and here's your arena and how do you broaden your arena, right? That's how you do it. You be truthful with those you lead and they'll be truthful with you. Be open to learning. Thank you for staying here till 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. Lifelong learning is powerful. There's a Gandhi quote that I love, and I'm going to see if I get it right. He said, live as though you were to die tomorrow, but learn as though you were to live forever. Keep learning. Keep learning. So much is progressing, as Brenda said earlier, over the course of our history. And even tomorrow, nursing a year from now will probably look differently than it does today. Keep learning, right? And be dedicated to purpose-driven service. You know why? Because higher purpose gives greater meaning to both our work life and our personal life. And that's what it's really all about. So what are the qualities of being an authentic leader? Know your purpose, understand your purpose, practice those solid values, lead with heart. Lead with heart. Establish those connected relationships and demonstrate self-discipline. Great qualities of authentic leaders. Now let's get out of leadership theory and let's move on into meaningful recognition. I put up those stats earlier. And if we think for a minute that we can run ORs, ambulatory surgery centers, all the areas of periop without people, can't do it, right? And so we're all after one common goal, and that is to retain those that we brought into our organization. There's all these buzzwords here recently in the literature and in the news around, the great resignation, silent quitters, all that good stuff. But how do we move really from the great resignation to the great retention? And I'm a firm believer that, again, you do that by being an authentic leader and you do it through meaningful recognition of your team. And so I want to share with you some things that I've done through the years, some things that my colleagues yet at Northeast Georgia haven't seen yet because we haven't rolled it out. Those at Gwinnett, Northside, Gwinnett, where are you? On my Northside, Gwinnett, look at there. That's all my old peeps right there. I still love you all. But those are things that I rolled out at Northside Gwinnett that really, really worked and helped us. And the first one is a program that I started called Great Nurses for a Great Community. Great place to work, great place to learn, and great place to be the best. Now, I don't know if you remember your first day of nursing school or your first day on the job. I do. It was in 1991, was my very first nursing clinical. I remember in Hammond, Louisiana, I was going to LSU, go Tigers. And don't hate it, don't hate it, don't hate it, really don't hate it. Just kidding. And I remember as a guy in a predominantly female profession, you walking up to a hospital, it was North Oaks Hospital in Hammond, Louisiana, and for my, what we then called, I don't know if we still call it, not all that, the admissions in the room, fundamentals, with the bed baths and the ADLs and all that good stuff, and that very first clinical. And I was scared to death. I'd never ever walked in a hospital. I didn't know what to expect. I never knew what the inside of a hospital looked like, smelled like, acted like, had no clue, scared to death, right? But there was a faculty member there that I remember to this day, and she met me in the lobby. She met actually all 6 of us in the lobby, and she oriented us, and she held our hand because we told her we were scared. We'd never done this before. We were young kids. What do we know about hospitals? Right? And you've all been there as well. So Great Nurses for a Great Community is a program I put in place that is really a full structured onboarding program that from the time of application to your first day on the job, there are multiple touch points along the way. Where when you show up for your employee health screening, we don't just say, hey, go here, go there, turn left, turn right. Instead, you know what? We'll meet you in the lobby and we'll take you there. Because there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of great first impressions that you can make in that regard, right? And so what does that do? That helps decrease anxiety, decreases stress. It's gonna automatically increase job satisfaction, which we know is gonna decrease turnover, right? And so how do you really provide that consistency around that whole onboarding process and create a more personalized experience? It's what we call not the patient experience, but the employee experience. And I heard somebody at dinner last night say that very term. I'm thinking, uh-oh, they must have read my notes, because that's what it's really all about, creating that overall great first impression from an employee experience. Another thing that I did with this, another touch point, and I'll move on from this, is with preceptors. Several years ago, here in Georgia at a hospital, I was proud to be the CNO of this hospital. And I was out rounding early one morning, came in around 5 o'clock, hit the night shift and saw a lot of night shift nurses. And I happened to be in this one unit around 6:45 when the day shift was coming in and there was a new orientee. And so the charge nurse says, and I'll just pick on Brenda. Hey, Brenda, Doreen is here and she's a new orientee and you're going to be her preceptor today. And Brenda, the preceptor, says, I'm not doing it today. I don't feel like it. I'm not in the mood, and I'm not doing it. Right in front of the orientee. And I wanted to pull out, you must not know about me, because I was actually this nurse open. That's why that old term sneaks up every day about we need our own, we need our own, all that stuff. Right? And I'm like, oh, and I don't remember the nurses. I do remember the nurses in my won't call it. But I have to say, Brenda, I was like, Brenda, come. Let's talk, right? And so we had a conversation, but can you imagine how it made that new orientee feel? Because it didn't just stop there. After the conversation ended with Brenda, the church says, well, you know, so-and-so, would you be willing to precept Doreen? And she's like, no, I'm not doing it either. I got 4 patients. Ain't happening. And the orientee's just standing there. And I'm thinking, why would you want to work here? I'd grab my stuff and hit the road. Think about it. And what it also said to that new orientee was, no one was expecting me. Nobody. That's where this was born when I decided to do this. And so it creates those touch points. And then the practice is still in place today at that place, because in preparation for today, this discussion today, I called just to make sure. And so now what we do, and Benji, you may remember this as well, but what we do in every place I've implemented this is we assign a preceptor long before they ever start. Once they're hired and they're coming, we now know who their preceptor is, and now Brenda proactively, before they ever start, will call and say, hey, Doreen, my name is Brenda, and I'm the nurse in the operating room at whatever place. And you know what? I'm so excited that you're going to be joining our team, and I'm going to be your preceptor. Wow. Someone just called me well in advance of me starting to tell me this. What do you think that just did for that person? Instill confidence, instill like, oh man, I made the right decision to want to come here. And beyond that, Brendan will say, you know what? And I know your first day is on da 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 da. So now I already know about this person. And I know parking can sometimes be a challenge, and the place is really, really big here. So you know what? I'll meet you at such and such place, and we'll walk together to the operating room or walk together to whatever unit we're going to. Touch points, all those touch points along the way. And we do those all the way from pre-boarding all the way through 1 year of celebration. Rounding on team members. How many of you round on your team? This is the old Stuart group tactic. And it's powerful and it's been great. Except there's a new phenomenon now that's hit nursing. And I don't know if you know this or not, but now today the latest statistic is 72% of employees in the workplace are millennials. 72%. Of the people working for us today are millennials, right? And so how we used to frame questions no longer works for a millennial. A millennial may not want that genuine personal connection. They may not want you to say, what's working well for you? Who can I recognize? You know, you recognize me. You recognize me. That's how millennials are, right? What tough questions can I answer for you? Is there anything else I can do for you right now? Instead, we met with a guy, a millennial leading millennials, and we said, what would millennials want to be asked about their work environment? He says, here you go. What do you love most about working here? That's how you get it out of them. Do you have what you need to do your job effectively? What frustrates you most right now? Because they're always frustrated. They live in a right now environment, right? What can we do right now to improve safety and quality? If you could change one thing right now, what would it be? What else is on your mind that I didn't ask you about today? Harvesting that. What can I do better as your leader to support you right now? And then thank them for making a difference. These are just different ways of phrasing those questions as you continue to deal with millennials in the workplace. The old way of questioning won't work. That may work for us boomers, right? But it doesn't work anyway. And so we have to be ever cognizant. I could go on a whole generational tangent, and I won't do that today. But we have to know those that we lead and how they respond to certain things. Recruitment and resignation. This is one that is a personal favorite of mine, because I know personally of leaders that when their staff left them during the pandemic to go travel, they got mad. Oh, you're leaving me. Well, good luck. You'll never come back here. Bye. Felicia, someone put that on the end of it too. Look, I'm just being real. I'm calling it out because that's what happened. Instead, we said, what if we take a different approach to this? And what if we say, you know what, Lou, I recognize, because if I've already done Lou, I really may know, I'm just making this up again, guys, that she's a single mom of 3. And she may need those extra dollars that were so hot during the pandemic to pay bills, to pay off a mortgage, to pay off a car, to pay off student debt, to help someone, a kid in college, whatever it may be. And so, you know, and here's how the conversation for us changed. We put a program for recruitment and resignation. Instead of getting mad and say, good luck, hope you don't get COVID while you're out there. Don't get it, girl. You ain't never coming back here. Instead, I said, you know what, Luke? I get it. I understand it. You confided in me before you were a single mom of 3. And I know, you know what, if I could leave and go travel right now and make the money, I'll do it too. But I want you to know, Luke, that when you're done, and if it's something you don't like, I want you to know where your true north is. And you can always come home. We'll take it back. Yeah. And then we put a tick mark on our calendar, all of our nurse leaders. And we would know when Lou's last day was going to be. And then we sent a card and a gift to her home and said, best of luck, stay safe, but come back to us when you're done. Remember who you is. When I left, we had well recruited over 150 nurses back. They just needed to go make the money for a minute, right? It was our time in history to do that. Then you can shape your opinion, and you may totally disagree with me in my approach. They'll come back when you take care of them. They'll always remember you. And here's the next thing. What many of us forgot was a lot of these travelers left our organizations and they were local travelers. So they left Lou and Emory to come to Northside. That was a great opportunity to recruit. But maybe sometimes the way we acted to them when they came to us because they were a traveler, subservient than everyone else, right? They're like, uh-oh, I'm going back. Culture was so much better where I came from. Recruitment at resignation. I only said that to say this. Be careful of the way, be cautious of the way when someone is exiting your leadership to go work for someone else because there's power and maybe bringing them back at one day during the future. Think about it. Communication is key. It's all over the patient experience, HCAPS questions, the OAS questions with Press Gaining, all about this communication stuff, right? And so during the pandemic, a lot of things just halted. A lot of organizations stopped shared leadership, shared governance, whatever we want to call it. They halted all that stuff, right? And then sometimes we didn't even communicate to our staff what was happening. Now, granted, we know things were changing minute by minute, day by day, right? I mean, every other day, the CDC had a different guideline for us to follow. I get all that, right? But whatever knowledge you are powerful, equipped with today is powerful when you can communicate that to your staff. So figure out a way to do that, be that town halls, be that desktop chats, whatever it may be, figure out a way to stay in front of your team and communicate to them what you know. The key here, though, is that you got to be authentic when you do it. You got to be authentic because I'm telling you, they know when they ask you a question, whether you're lying or whether you're telling the truth. They know. And it's better to give it to them straight, or it's better to say, I know the answer to that, but unfortunately, I just can't give that to you just yet. Be truthful with them. Don't say, I don't know, when you know daggum good and well you know. Be authentic. Be authentic. Another thing too, whenever you're doing town halls or staff meetings or whatever, the standard out there, the latest standards are 1/3 content and 2/3 recognition and time for Q&A. Because it doesn't matter if you got 50 slides or 10 things you want to cover on an agenda with them. If it is not what's on their agenda for a millennial, they're not listening to you. I got a witness right here. So know what's on their minds, know what's on their hearts so that you can make sure you are delivering to their expectations. But again, always remember to publicly recognize and reward your team for great performance. So what else can we do to provide meaningful recognition? Well, there was a lot of people who left, right, to travel. We get that. But there's also a mighty big crowd who stayed. What do we do for them? So I challenge every one of you to figure out what can you do around a You Stayed campaign. You stayed, and I'm mighty glad you did. So this is what I'm going to do for you now. How do we put things around those who stayed with us? Real-time visibility. Newsflash, did you know that millennials prefer healthy snacks over an unhealthy snack? They do. So tie that to visibility. We went around with apples and oranges and granola bars and all that kind of stuff, and woof, they came to you, right? And it's more than the apple and the orange and the healthy snack. It's that they got to see their leader. They got to be visible and have face time with their leader. That's the power here. That's the power here. Let me tell you something. I'm talking about meaningful recognition, and here's another news flash. A pizza party is not meaningful recognition. It's not. Right? All you did was just feed their soul for just a minute, and then they're going to digest that and forget you ever came around or ordered a Papa John's. And you can flip it up and go to Pizza Hut and Domino's every other time, but they still gonna remember that, right? It is not gonna help that. And here's another one. Sometimes a written appreciation is also so powerful, so powerful. And it's also powerful when you mail it to their home, because you know what it does? It gets in the hearts and minds of a family member or significant other who might see that, wow, your boss sent you something to the house, right? Let me tell you something else that I do. And I've done it now for several years. And every time I do it, and I'm gonna challenge all of you to try it too. It is the one single thing that I get the more thanks for than anything I've ever done as a leader. We know that as a nursing profession, we signed up for a service profession that doesn't get a day off. We're open 365, right? So it is no stranger to us that come a holiday, we're still open. Somebody's still got to work Christmas Eve, Thanksgiving Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Day, Mother's Day. You can call Halloween is a holiday. It might not be recognized in our hospitals, but y'all know you have people that call out on Halloween. All these holidays, right? And I recognize too that I'm talking to a bunch of OR leaders, so maybe, just maybe, the OR is closed if the holiday is on a particular weekday, right? But you bet you still got an on-call team because somebody's still acting the fool on 285 and they're going up in one of our hospitals here in Atlanta, right? And so I every year find out who is working on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and I send them a card to the family, not to the employee, to the family. And I wish I brought one with me here, but my message is something in part to the family of Laura. I just want you to know how appreciative I am for Laura working on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, or I may even say through the holiday season, because we now in this day and age, we have some folks who don't celebrate Christmas, and you want to be respectful of that from a diverse and inclusive standpoint. I get that. So I think I'd say something around the holiday season. I know it's not easy being apart from family, during the holidays, but I want you to know that your loved one is making a difference. And we could not be as strong as we are as a nursing organization and as a healthcare organization without Laura on our team. Thank you for sharing her with us during the holiday season. I have had people come to my office with tears rolling down their face saying, "You said this to my wife, or you said this to my husband. My kids got this." It's the power of meaningful recognition. Recognizing the family, because they're going to be without their loved one on those holidays sometimes. So I challenge you, maybe your team got called in on a holiday and you send that note to their family member. Hey, I recognize it wasn't fun to share, John with us on Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve night or whatever you want to say in there. But we're so thankful you did. Just want you to know that because of his heroic actions and because he came in here and because of his nursing skill, competency, whatever you want to say, we are a better organization because of him. And we couldn't do it without him. Challenge you to try that one. Travel nurse impact. Talked about this great resignation, changing that term to the great recruitment. And so, there's a lot of people who have varied opinions around travelers. How many of you still have travelers in your organization? Yeah, several of you, right? How do we treat them in our organization? Or how we have treated them, rather, has not always been the most positive. Right? They come in, they are making triple the money that everybody else on your team is making. Sometimes I did a whole ethical situation, seminar on this one time. We give them the worst patient assignments. We gave them during COVID, all the COVID patients. Why? Because you make triple what I make? Is that right? Instead, how do we embrace those travelers and turn them into a recruiting event? And where are my Emory friends and colleagues in here? A few of you? You can raise your hand. This is positive. I saw, yeah. Don't be scared. Like, I saw something like, get it up there. Where's Emory? Yeah, absolutely. Emory, about a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago, somewhere along in there, and it was all over LinkedIn, they sent every one of their travelers gifts. I don't know if y'all know that or not. And I'm thinking, well, they fixing to recruit all of them. I better get with it too. Right? So how do we really incorporate travelers into our fold? Because here's the deal. They've been all over the country probably, or at least they've been to several other organizations as travelers, and they probably know best practices and have seen great things that will get great results that we don't know about, or we haven't read about, or we haven't implemented in our hospital, yet we don't ask them because they're a traveler. We don't recognize them during Nurse Week or Hospital Week or during Certified Nurses Day because we're behind $10 gift, and we got one for every nurse on the staff that's part of us, but not the traveler. If the traveler is clocking into you and you're writing a check to their agency, they work for you. They carry your brand. Recognize them, love on them, take care of them, right? And even if they don't stay with you, it's the right thing to do for the profession. For the profession, how we perpetuate that. As a result of this whole big thing we did, we recruited over 150 travelers into our organization. Powerful how you take care of this. Now, I asked earlier, where are all the leaders in the room, right? And you have feelings, and you have emotions, and you have struggles and trials, and all those things too. And the way you come to work and the way you show up every day matters to me as an executive. So this is something I'm actually in the process of doing right now. I've only been in Northeast Georgia for about 9 weeks. And as I sit with each of my leaders, I ask them 2 questions at the end of that conversation, my initial conversations with all of them. And I said, what do you need from me to be successful? And then if I exceed your expectations, what will I have done in the next 12 months that will have wowed you? What will I have done? And then I take all of those responses and I put it into a pledge. And I tell them, you know what? You shed light on so many things that will help me focus my attention on things that matter to you as a leader. Through our discussion, 2 things emerged from the questions I asked. And one of those was to be fair, transparent, and communicate timely. Well, sadly that they had to tell me that. Because I would think that's what we as nurse executives and as nurse leaders truly do every single day. We're fair, we're equitable, we're transparent with our team, we're communicating to them. And then the other piece that I heard a lot of it was advocate on your behalf and on behalf of your team members. Amy, do I advocate for you and your team? Absolutely. Recent situation, won't get into the details. We had 18 nurses who were in the situation that weren't going to be included in some type of incentive program that we were doing. And I thought, not on my watch. That ain't happening. And Amy was courageous enough and bold enough to come to me in my first 8 weeks and tell me about that. And I advocated for it. And now we got a solution and they're included. Right? And so that's how I want to be. As I support leaders, I want to advocate on your behalf. And so I tell them in this pledge, to that end, I pledge to communicate timely and keep you up to date on those things that will help you be successful as a leader. And secondly, I pledge to always be fair and consistent in my approach so that I earn your trust and respect. Right? Lastly, I pledge to always advocate on your behalf of team members who daily provide world-class healthcare, nursing care to the patients who trust us during the most vulnerable times of their life. Here's what I want you to do. Keep this pledge in your possession so that you can evaluate my success over the next year. And then I keep a copy of this framed in my office. So it reminds me every time I walk in there what I need to do and what I've pledged and promised to the leaders that I get the privilege and honor of leading and supporting every single day. All right, I'm moving along real quickly. What does the data tell us, right? I know nurses leaders love to be rooted and grounded in data, and so let's get into that a little bit. American Association of Critical Care Nurses. How many of you seen the 6 domains of a healthy work environment? Who knows about that? Yep, absolutely. My 2 favorite ones up here, authentic leadership, meaningful recognition. 2 of the domains of the 6. Now, I've seen this work numerous times, that when you really implement and infiltrate your nursing culture and your nursing organization with these 6 domains that create a healthy work environment, the rest is history. The rest is history, and I'm going to prove it to you in just a moment. Meaningful recognition ties to purpose because it comes from the ones who matter most. Your patients, their families, and their peers. Right? So when you're able to recognize someone because a patient recognized them, or a family member, or even a peer or physician, that is truly meaningful recognition. That buffers the negative effects of burnout, and it helps us in our organizations to create that culture of gratitude that we know is so necessary in this day and time. Nominating nurses facilitates healing, and therapeutic reflection in the nominator. Daisy just did a study not long ago, or maybe still in the process of it, with Dr. Susan Grant at Beaumont, and they looked at the effects of what effect does it have on the nominator. If I'm nominating a nurse who really made a difference in my life, they looked at the effects of that on that person who did the nomination, and the results were staggering in how they felt and how it helped facilitate their healing. And then obviously we know what it does from a marketable standpoint, and then it enhances the family's perception of the healthcare organization. There's 4 components to compassion satisfaction. caring, those energized moments, feelings of contribution, patient satisfaction, all of those things really revolve around compassion, satisfaction. And you've heard a lot about that today, even in some of these other presentations. So compassion, satisfaction is really saying, you know, I'm here to help. I'm here to help you, and in all of these domains right here. So the other thing too that we're seeing in the evidence is a lot of nurses were asked, about 4,000 nurses, what on your job restores your emotional energy, right? And so here's what 4 that I just pulled out of that literature. It says the times I get thanked stand out in my mind. Compassion, satisfaction. Seeing a patient get better right before my eyes, that restores my emotional energy. Knowing the people I work with have my back. I bet you if you go ask anybody that you lead right now today, why do you stay here? They'll say, people I work with. They love their teams, right? Recognizing that I'm affecting you more than I realize also helps to restore that compassion, satisfaction in individuals. It's all about joy. Joy, joy, joy. Joy is the ability to connect and make a meaningful difference in the lives of those we serve. We know that celebrating meaningful connections, as it says up here, gives permission for the work that goes beyond, it transcends beyond just the physical needs of patients and the patient care, and it helps to reduce burnout. It builds team resilience, and it fosters a culture of joy. How many of you have joy in what you do every day as a leader? Absolutely. If you don't, I encourage you to search for what really creates that joy in you. What really cultivates joy so that you are happy and doing whatever you do. Because I say today, choose joy. And you can create that culture of joy through meaningful recognition. Celebrating those acts, again, that go beyond the care of patients. That really connects with the human condition. You know, we're all in this swirl right now around virtual nursing. And I think Brenda might have said it earlier, that virtual nursing, while powerful, can never, ever replace the healing power of touch, the healing power of presence. Yes, virtual nursing probably has its rightful place in our future, and even now, they say the future is now, right? But it's all about that human connection and how we create avenues for patients and families and colleagues to share gratitude. Sometimes it's always great to read exemplars of compassionate care and new employee orientation and team meetings and public forums. Sometimes that's really, really powerful. But whatever you do, whatever you put in place to really create that culture of meaningful recognition, do it with all your heart, do it with all your might so that it is sustainable. Job satisfaction and psychological empowerment. When we make it known that explicit acts of compassion are valued in our organization and they're encouraged, then that's when we start to empower the extraordinary. An engaged workforce, we all know the outcomes of that. Better patient outcomes, higher levels of patient satisfaction, reduced turnover, better financial performance, right? And if we spend today, many organizations spend $5 to $6 million annually due to nurse turnover, then creating a culture of joy and meaningful recognition, I would say, is a good investment in our team. Right now, Vanjie mentioned I'm on the DAISY board, proud to be on the DAISY board. Love it. DAISY has a whole impact program, and I know probably everyone in this room has the DAISY award in your organizations, but it really focuses on 3 things from a DAISY impact perspective, and that's nurse engagement, the patient and family experience, and the healthy work environment. Healthy work environment truly shines the light on all the right. It reminds us why we became nurses, and it helps to build team spirit. I underwent the healthy work environment survey for 2 years in a row with my team in a past organization. Look at the results of this. When you truly instill all 6 elements, that orange line right there is the AACN average, which is about 3.44. The first year we did this, we were pretty much above average. Maybe this unit right here wasn't, but pretty much. But after these, you build that culture of meaningful recognition and authentic leadership with all of your leaders and those that you get to lead every day. Look at what the second year was in that gray bar. Shot up. So meaningful recognition works. Healthy work environments work. It's all about being authentic in your approach with your team. And so I think that there are 2 questions you should ask yourself as an OR nurse, because I know what you're probably thinking right now. Well, everybody's asleep in the OR. They don't know who their nurse is, right? And so they really can't be nominated for the DAISY Award. I would say it's on us to help rewrite that paradigm, change that paradigm. And so 2 questions for you. How will the patients you serve know they can say thank you? How do they even know they can even say thank you to a nurse, right? And how will they know that nurse's name that they want to thank? 2 questions I'm gonna leave you with. How do they know they can say thank you? And how are they gonna know the name of the nurse? Now, I tell you one thing that I'm doing to help our perioperative team that they don't even know about yet. So Amy, here it goes. And Emery, thank you for being a pilot. There's my Emery people again. But on the press gated survey, at the end of every digital survey that comes via phone or computer, or the paper survey for inpatient, for HCAPS, ER for ED caps, OAS for ambulatory surgery, and OS for outpatient services, the last page will have a QR code or a letter from me that says, want to thank that nurse. For OR, for periop services or ambulatory services, it says, want to thank a nurse who helped get you through your periop experience or your OR surgical experience. Click this code here to say thank you. That's one way that we're hopeful we can get that in the hands of patients and family members. So I challenge you to figure out ways that you can truly do that. Now, I've talked a lot about meaningful recognition and authentic leadership, and I'm out of time.